Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we've got a classic joke for you, one that reveals a surprisingly deep truth about the difference between how humans think and how computers, well, think. So, what really happens when you pit our messy human language against cold, hard computer logic? Well, it turns out the answer is hidden in a simple trip to the grocery store that goes wonderfully, logically, and completely wrong. All right, so our story kicks off with what sounds like the most normal, everyday request ever. A wife asks her husband, who happens to be a programmer, to just run a quick errand. I mean, that seems perfectly clear, doesn't it? You've got your main task, get bread, and then a little side quest, a condition, if they have eggs. What could possibly go wrong here? Well, this is where things get interesting. The result of this very simple instruction? Yeah, it's anything but routine.
Okay, picture this. He gets back, walks through the door, grocery bag in hand. But right away, his wife knows something is up. That bag, it is way heavier than it should be.
He didn't come back with just one loaf of bread, or even bread and eggs. Nope, he came back with a dozen of something. That's right, 12 loaves of bread. His wife, understandably baffled, is just staring at this mountain of carbs and asks the only question you could ask: why on earth did you buy 12 loaves of bread?
And there it is. His answer is everything. It's the punchline, and it's the key that unlocks this whole puzzle. Because in his mind, what he did made perfect logical sense. So the real question isn't why he did it, but how he got there.
Okay, to really get this, we have to do something a little weird. We have to completely ditch our normal human intuition for a second and try to think like a computer processing a command, one literal piece at a time.
Let's just map out his mental flowchart. Step 1, he gets the base command, buy a loaf of bread. Got it. The subject is bread. Then, step 2, he hits that conditional statement, if they have eggs. Okay, this is just a test, a question he needs to answer. So step 3, he's at the store, he runs the query, do they have eggs? The answer comes back, yes. True. So, what's step 4? He has to execute the action tied to that condition. Buy a dozen. A dozen what? Well, if you think about it like code, the only item he was ever instructed to buy was bread.
And this right here, this is the heart of the problem. It's a classic case of what you might call an ambiguous antecedent. All that really means is that it's not 100% clear what the phrase a dozen is referring back to. To his code-driven brain, bread was the one and only subject of the sentence. The part about eggs, that was just a condition, not a new item. So when he got to buy a dozen, his logic just snapped it right onto the original subject he'd been given. And this is where we see the two worlds collide. It's just a perfect little story about the huge gap between how we humans talk, all messy and intuitive, and how a computer executes commands with absolute, literal precision.
So look at this, it lays it out perfectly. The wife's intent is all about context, right? We humans just assume that when she says, if they have eggs, that introduces a new subject. So of course, buy a dozen applies to the eggs. But the programmer's logic? It's totally different. It's literal. The is clause is just a checkpoint. The action, buy a dozen, simply modifies the original subject he was given at the start, bread. They are two completely different ways of understanding the exact same sentence.
So let's zoom out for a second. This joke is so much bigger than just being about programmers. It's actually a brilliant metaphor for a communication gap that, let's be honest, we all fall into from time to time. I mean, just think about how much of our daily conversation is built on these unspoken rules and shared assumptions. We are constantly filling in the blanks for each other without even realizing it. It's why you can text a friend, "I'm fine," and they know you are anything but fine, while a smart assistant would just take you at your word. When you communicate with a system, or even a person that takes everything literally, all those assumptions can lead to, well, 12 loaves of bread. So what does this all mean for us? The key takeaway here is actually pretty huge. Being a good communicator isn't just about choosing the right words. It's about imagining how those words could be misinterpreted. It's about closing the gap between what you mean and what you actually say.
And that leaves us with one last fascinating question to think about. Was the programmer wrong? I mean, he wasn't illogical. In fact, he was perfectly logical. But in a world that runs on human connection and unspoken context, maybe, just maybe, the most logical path isn't always the right one.